Hello, everyone. Good morning. Nice to meet you all, and welcome to our seminar titled Planning for a Research Career in Europe. Today, we are going to discuss why research during the PhD shapes your entire academic future. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this seminar. It is a pleasure for me to speak with early career researchers and PhD students because I still clearly remember the uncertainties and questions I had during my own academic journey. Before starting, let me introduce myself. My name is Reza Eskarizad. I hold a PhD in urban regeneration and sustainability at the Polytechnic University of Madrid in Spain, and currently a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Cagliari in Italy. Today, I would like to share not only theoretical advice, but also my personal experiences regarding how research during PhD can fundamentally shape your future academic and professional career in Europe. My academic journey started in architecture and urban studies in Iran. At that time, I was mainly interested in the relationship between people in a space, how urban environments influence human behavior, social interactions, mobility, and everyday life. Gradually, this interest evolved into a more research oriented path. I became increasingly interested in scientific methods, urban analytics, and interdisciplinary research approaches such as space syntax, environmental psychology, and urban sociology. Over time, this journey opened opportunities for me to collaborate internationally with researchers and universities in different countries such as China, Spain, Italy, and other countries. Currently, I collaborate internationally and I also work in editorial activities in different publications like Elsevier, Springer, MDPI, and Frontiers. One thing I want to emphasize from the beginning is that none of this happens suddenly. Academic careers are cumulative. Every paper, every collaboration, and every conference, and even every difficult moment gradually contributes to shaping your academic identity. So today, I want to discuss the reality of academic life, not only the ideal version of it, but also the practical realities that many students do not hear about it early enough. One of the biggest misunderstandings among students is that a PhD is simply an advanced educational degree. Many students initially think, I will complete some courses, write a dissertation, graduate, and then everything will naturally happen. But in reality, a PhD is professional training for becoming an independent researcher. The dissertation itself is only one part of the process. The real objective is to learn how to identify meaningful research gaps, how to formulate strong research questions, how to critically evaluate existing literature, how to design rigorous methodologies, and how to generate new knowledge. Research is therefore the heart of the PhD. A good PhD changes the way you think. You begin to approach problems analytically. You become more critical. You stop accepting information at face value. You start asking why, how, what evidence support this. This mindset is extremely valuable not only inside academia but also in policymaking, consulting, planning, and many professional sectors. Another important point is that research teaches intellectual independence. At the beginning of a PhD, students often depend heavily on supervisors, but gradually They should become capable of independently designing and defending their own scientific arguments. That transition is actually one of the most important transformations during the PhD journey. In Europe, your research profile gradually becomes your academic identity. People often assume that the diploma itself is the most important achievement. But honestly, after graduation, universities and institutions usually look much more carefully at your research profile rather than only your degree title. They ask questions like, what have you published? What methods can you use? Have you collaborated internationally? Can you independently conduct research? What is your scientific contribution? This is why research during PhD is extremely important. A strong research trajectory can influence postdoctoral opportunities, grants, fellowships, academic employment, invitation for collaborations, editorial positions, and conference participations. For example, many of my own opportunities emerged because people discovered my work through publications or conference presentations. Research creates visibility, and visibility creates opportunities. Another important issue is citations and scientific impact. Many students focus only on finishing the thesis quickly, but they underestimate the long term value of building a visible research portfolio. A strong publication record during the PhD can significantly reduce future academic struggles because you already established credibility before graduation. In many European systems, this early visibility becomes highly important for competitiveness. In Europe, academia is increasingly internationalized and performance oriented. Universities now evaluate researchers based on several dimensions simultaneously. Of course, publications matter, but that is not the whole story. Institutions also evaluate methodological rigor, interdisciplinarity, international collaboration, societal impact, participations, grant potential, and communication skills. For example, today many universities want researchers who can connect science with real societal challenges, especially in fields like urban planning, sustainability, mobility, climate adaptation, and social equity. Interdisciplinary thinking has become essential. Another important factor is independence. Supervisors and institutions want to see whether a PhD student can eventually evolve into someone capable of leading projects independently. Can this person formulate original ideas? Can they manage collaborations? Can they respond professionally to criticism? Can they communicate their work internationally? These aspects matter enormously. One thing I learned during my own journey is that technical skills alone are not enough. You also need communication skills, networking abilities, academic professionalism, and persistence. European academia is highly collaborative. Research today is rarely isolated. Most successful researchers build strong international networks over time. Research becomes visible through publication. If research remains unpublished, unfortunately, it often becomes invisible within academia. This is why publications are frequently described as the currency of academia. Publications help you to build visibility, establish expertise, increase citations, create academic reputation, and enter scientific conversations. However, I want to emphasize something very important. Quality matters much more than quantity. Many students become obsessed with publishing as many papers as possible, but weak publications rarely create long term scientific impact. Sometimes one strong paper in a respected journal can be more valuable than multiple low quality papers. Let me share a personal experience of mine with you. I remember publishing my first Scopus Index paper in 2017 during my master's studies in Iran. I was fortunate to have a brilliant supervisor who taught me the principles of scientific research exceptionally well. After graduation, following his advice, I published two papers in 2020 in high impact Elsevier journals. One of those was the Journal of Cities. Anyone who involved in urban studies knows that Cities has been always a flagship and top tier journal in our field. A few months after publication, I received my first international job offer as a researcher with reference to that publication without even applying anywhere. This was an amazing alert for me as an early career researcher on time, and I notified that my works are capturing the attention of the academia. This is what happens when we prioritize the quality of publication over quantity. Therefore, students should focus on methodological quality, originality, theoretical contribution, and relevance. Another issue is journal selection. Early career researchers should gradually learn how to how journals operate, how peer review works, how editors think, and how to align their manuscript with journal scope. Publishing is not only about writing, it is also about strategy. You need to understand where your work fits within broader scientific databases. I also strongly encourage students to read high quality papers critically. This is a very important and strategically critical point, not only for the content, but also to understand the structure, argumentation, and scientific storytelling. This strategy could be really inspiring for you. As a researcher who involved in editorial roles in four different publications and reviewing experiences for more than 40 different index journals in my own field, I can honestly say that many manuscripts are rejected very early, sometimes before external peer review even begins. And usually, the reason is not because the topic is bad. Why? The problem is often the lack of a strong scientific argument. Many early career researchers focus heavily on data collection but spend less time on developing research questions, theoretical framing, and contribution. One of the most common problems is descriptive writing. Students describe what they found, but they do not explain why does this matter scientifically. Editors constantly ask, what is new here? What gap does this study address? How does it advance knowledge? Why should readers care about it? Another common issue is weak methodology. Sometimes the methods do not properly answer the research question, or the paper lacks theoretical grounding, or the discussion section simply repeats the results instead of interpreting them critically. I also want to mention something important regarding reviewer comments. Revisions are completely normal. Even experienced researchers receive major revision and criticism. Students should not take criticism personally. Peer review is part of scientific improvements. The key is learning how to respond professionally, respectfully, and analytically. A PhD is not only about the next 3 or 4 years. It is an investment for the next 20 years of your professional life. Every paper, every collaboration, every conference, every methodological skill, and every academic relationship accumulates over time. Academic careers are rarely built suddenly. Usually, they are built gradually through consistency. Sometimes students become discouraged because progress feels slow, but research careers often develop exponentially. At the beginning, opportunities are limited, but once you build visibility and networks, opportunities begin multiplying. One publication leads to collaboration, one conference leads to invitations, one project leads to another project. This cumulative process is extremely important to understand. Another important point is patience. Scientific work requires time. Good research often involves failures, revisions, rejected manuscripts, and methodological challenges. But these experiences are actually part of becoming a stronger researcher. One of the most important aspects of a research career in Europe is networking. Unfortunately, many academic appointments in Europe rely heavily on favoritism rather than merit. So please do not be disappointed if you have been declined by many applications, regardless of your competency. Getting an academic position often depends on who you know, not what you know, and many of them are filled through personal connections. I'm afraid that this fact is the dark side of this story. So, research today is deeply international. Many opportunities emerge not only from publications, but also from relationships. Networking does not mean superficial self promotion, it means building constructive academic connections. These connections may emerge through conferences, workshops, summer schools, collaborative projects, online academic platforms, or research visits. For example, several of my own collaborations emerged from conference interactions and international academic communications. Sometimes one short conversation after a presentation can later become a joint publication, a grant proposal, or even a future postdoctoral opportunity. Students should therefore not isolate themselves during the PhD. Visibility matters. Academic social platforms such as Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Orchid, and LinkedIn can also help researchers increase their professional visibility. But visibility should always be connected to real scientific quality. Students often think conferences are only about presenting papers. But conferences are actually much more than that. Conferences are spaces where academic communities interact. They help you to receive feedback, improve communication skills, understand current trends, meet future collaborations, and develop confidence. One important skill many students underestimate is scientific communication. You may have excellent research, but if you cannot communicate it clearly, its impact becomes limited. Conferences teach researchers how to explain complex ideas clearly and professionally. Another important aspect is observing other researchers. By attending conferences, students begin understanding how senior researchers think, how scientific debates evolve, and which topics are emerging internationally. This exposure is extremely valuable, and honestly, many academic opportunities happen informally during coffee breaks, after sessions, or through spontaneous conversations. Academic life is much more relational than many students initially realize. One important reality is that successful researchers are not only defined by intelligence. Research requires multiple skills simultaneously. Of course, technical and methodological knowledge matters, but beyond that, researchers need critical thinking, organization, communication, adaptability, and resilience. Resilience is especially important. Rejections are normal. Criticism is normal. Even rejection is normal. Reviewer comments are also normal. Every experienced academic has experienced rejections many times. And the difference is that strong researchers continue improving rather than becoming discouraged. Another important skill is time management. During the doctoral studies, students often need to balance research, teaching, publications, conferences, and personal life simultaneously. Learning how to prioritize becomes essential. I also strongly encourage students to continuously improve their academic writing skills. Good writing is not decoration, it is a part of scientific thinking itself. My advice to PhD students is to think strategically from the beginning. Do not wait until the final year to start publishing or networking. Build your profile gradually. For example, start presenting at conferences early. Publish step by step. Collaborate carefully and continuously improve your methods. Another important recommendation is developing one recognizable expertise. Sometimes the students try to work on too many unrelated topics, but strong academic identities are usually built around a clear expertise area. When people hear your name, they should gradually associate you with a specific field or methodological strength. Another practical point is learning research software and analytical tools. Today, methodological skills are highly valued in academia. Students who combine theoretical thinking with strong analytical capabilities often become much more competitive internationally. Finally, visibility matters. Maintain updated academic profiles and make your work discoverable. I want to also be honest and realistic. Academic careers can be extremely rewarding, but they can also be competitive and uncertain. Sometimes there are funding challenges, sometimes temporary contracts, sometimes difficult transition between countries or institutions. This uncertainty is a part of academic life for many early career researchers. However, there are also many positive dimensions. Academia gives you intellectual freedom. It allows you to contribute knowledge. It allows you to influence policies, design, planning, and society. And perhaps most importantly, it allows continuous learning. One thing I personally appreciate about academia is that it constantly evolves. You continuously encounter new ideas, new collaborations, and new perspectives. Persistence, therefore, becomes extremely important. Academic success is usually not about who progresses fastest, it is about who continues consistently over time. And my final message is this: your PhD is not only a degree, it is the foundation of your future identity as a researcher. Try to approach the PhD not only as an obligation, but as a period of intellectual growth. Focus on your curiosity, consistency, integrity, collaboration, and long term development. Do not compare your journey excessively with others. Academic careers develop differently for everyone. Some opportunities emerge early, others emerge gradually. The important thing is continuous progress. Also, remember that research is not only about publishing papers, research is about contributing meaningful knowledge that may positively influence society and future generations, especially in fields connected to cities, sustainability, architecture, planning, and social equity. Research can be genuinely contribute to improve human life. And finally, do not be afraid of failure. Failure, rejection, and criticism are normal parts of academic growth. What matters is persistence, learning, and continuous improvement. Thank you very much for your attention to this seminar.